Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Amanda Kongvold and I'm the product manager for ProPresenter. Today we're going to be talking about stage screens. Now stage screens are one of my favorite features in ProPresenter. There's just so much you can do with them, so many hidden little features that you can find and basically really make it your own for your specific use case. So today we're going to talk about a few things with stage screens and hopefully you'll walk away learning a whole lot more and be ready to use this in your own environment. So what are we going to learn today? Well, first, we're going to learn what a stage screen is. Why would you use one? What is it for? Then we'll learn how to make a stage screen and what the difference between that screen and an audience screen is. And then next, we'll dive deep into some different stage layouts that you can use for your different use cases. You might have some for worship leaders, a different one for your pastor, and all sorts of other ones. We'll dive deep into that to make sure that you have all the tools you need for your specific use case. Next, we'll talk about how to switch between those stage layouts at different points in your service using things like macros and actions. And then lastly, a lot of you submitted some really great questions ahead of time. Thank you for that. We're going to go through some of those questions and I'm going to answer them directly. And then lastly, we'll wrap up and hopefully you'll walk away knowing a whole lot more about stage screens than you did when we started. So let's go ahead and get started. First, what is a stage screen? A stage screen is a little bit different than your normal audience screen. Think of your audience screen as what is shown to the audience. It's kind of in the name. A stage screen is what's more for people behind the scenes or on stage. So if you're the pastor or a worship leader, maybe you have a screen down at your feet or like on the back wall. While you can still show the same content in both places, maybe you want to show something different to those people, like a timer or only the information they need, or send them a message in the middle of the service telling them to wrap it up. Maybe they're going too long. All of that is what a stage screen is for. So this is a specific screen meant for those kind of people, on stage or behind the scenes. So now we're going to look at how to set up a stage screen. We do that in screen configuration. So go to Screens, Configure Screens. Here you'll notice that there's two sections. There's an audience at the top and then stage down at the bottom. If you haven't already, you can create a new screen. So I'll just make a new one here and I'll just use a placeholder. I don't have anything set up at the moment, but you can set this up to any of your hardware, whether that's an actual plugged in HDMI cable or NDI or however you have it set up for your stage screen hardware. If you have any questions about the hardware side of that, that's a great question to talk to our support team after this webinar. Now I've set up this new stage screen and that's pretty much it. I have it here. I can give it a name if I want to. Maybe this is the stage screen for backstage. Maybe it's somewhere else. I basically want to give it a name for whatever the use case for it is. But for my purposes today, I've got one main stage screen. So I'm actually going to delete this one that I just made. And here I've got one, I just called it stage screen. You know, sometimes you don't have to rewrite things and make it poetic. It's just a stage screen. So I've got that here and it's ready to go. Again, I just have it set to a placeholder for today, but any hardware that you might have set up, you would be able to set that up here. So now that I've got my stage screen set up, I can see all of my configured stage screens here in Show Controls. If you don't know which one it is, there's the little music man, but then this one you see a person standing at a podium. That icon is for stage. So here I see my stage screen as I named it earlier, as well as I have a multi-view. And don't worry, we're going to talk more about that one later. But my normal stage screen is just a normal 1920 by 1080 output, and I can see it here. And currently I don't really have it set to a good stage layout. We'll talk about that in a moment, but that's really all you need to know to set up your stage screen. So we set it up in screen configuration, and then if I want to see more about stage and its controls, I see that down here in the bottom right corner of the ProPresenter interface. So now, how do we make all these different stage layouts that I keep mentioning? Well, there's a few ways to open the stage editor. First is you can come up here to More and click Stage Editor, or if you click over here into the Stage Controls section, you can see Edit Selected Layout. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now I'm in the Stage Editor. This is where I can create as many stage layouts as I want to. There's basically an infinite number you can make. So you can make things for every different circumstance you need. You don't necessarily have to make one that serves for everything. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I do want to mention here at the top, while we're going to make a lot of these ones from scratch, we actually have a lot of different default options in ProPresenter. You can see all of these options here that if you just click on it, it will create that stage layout as you see it, and everything's already there. So you can take this and run with it and maybe make some edits to it, make it your own if you would like to do that. So there's a lot of great default templates here that you can start with. But for today, I want to get y'all the dirty details, as I said. I want to make sure that you all see how to build these yourself and understand kind of what everything is. So because of that, we're going to start with a blank stage layout. And now there are a few different stage layouts we're going to make today. The first one, and I think for a lot of you is maybe one that you're most familiar with, is just for your worship leader or your band or your praise team or someone singing a song on stage. As we all probably know, a lot of them don't remember the lyrics to the songs they sing every Sunday, so they rely on that stage screen that has the current text for the current line that they're on and the next text for whatever the next line is. So we're going to build a simple stage layout for that right now, just starting from scratch. So coming back to the stage editor, you see at the top I have all these icons and things, and if you just hover your mouse over these, you will see that it gives a little bit of a tooltip to let you know what all of them mean. So this first one is Insert Current Slide Object. So we're going to click that, and we want to add the current slide text. So I will select that one, and now you see this text box appear. I can see in the top left, it says text, current slide text. That basically lets me know what data is going to be filling this. And then it says current slide text in the main thing. So now you can see, well, this is pretty small. It may not fit really my needs. There's a couple quick things you can do to make sure that this is always going to work for you. First is text scaling. So if you come over here to the right-hand side, you can see some different options for text scaling. Basically, if I want this text to always be as big as it can be within this text box, I'm going to set this to text up or down. And immediately you'll see that this becomes very, very big. And that's great. So that way, if there's a lot of text, it'll get a little bit smaller and always fit in that text box. If there's just a few words, then it'll be really big, and make sure that your worship leaders can always see that. So I'll go ahead and keep that as it is. And I'm just going to frame this to where it's kind of at the top of my screen, just like this. And just because I don't necessarily want it centered right now, I'm just going to left align it. Awesome. That looks great. I'm okay with Helvetica, so we're going to keep that there. So now I've got my current slide text ready to go. And if you see, I can go ahead and come back to my show view, and I'm going to click on this slide. And now, oops, let me clear that announcements layer. You can see my audience screen here, that it's showing on the audience screen. So how can I see what's going to a stage layout? Well, if I come to this preview, I'm going to click stage screen as what I'm seeing on the preview. Awesome. And now you can see that we added that current slide text, linked text object. And now as I go through all these slides for the song, you see the current slide text also shown there for my stage screen, which is awesome. But like I said, I also want to see the next line, like what's coming up as the next line I need to sing. So let's go back to our stage editor. And now we're going to add, if you see the second icon, it's for next slide content. So I will add next slide text. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to kind of quickly frame this and also make it text up or down and left align it. And now just again, I personally like to have next slide text be like a different color so that I'm always focused on the main current slide text, and next slide text is kind of a lower priority there. Just visually, I think it helps a little bit. So here I'm just going to change the color to this kind of yellowish text. Now I'm going to come back here, and I can see that that has already updated. So as I go through this song, you can see that it's also showing correctly on my stage screen. So now if I'm a worship leader, I don't have to remember all the words to the songs. The production team has got my back, and they've got the current slide text and the next slide text right there for me. Now let's add one more thing to this stage layout. Let's say I want to make sure that the worship leader knows what time it is. Like, is it like 9:30? Is it 9:20? Like how soon until the end of the service? I'm going to go ahead and add a clock here basically that just shows this like the time of day. So we'll come back to this stage editor, and I'm just going to make some room to add that time of day clock here at the bottom. And if you come over here to the clock, the timer icon, I will click on this and I will see any timers that I have configured. But for our purposes right now, I'm going to click System Clock. So you see that this appears, and similarly, I'm just going to kind of make this work and be down here. I'm going to use that scaling option again to just quickly make sure it fits into that text box and is nice and big. And just because, like I said, I want to make sure that the worship leader's focus is on the lyrics and not necessarily the time, but they're able to see it. I'm just going to make this a gray color just to make it a little bit less prominent. So if I want to change anything about this stage clock, show it in a different format, all of these options are here for me down at the bottom right. But let's go ahead and go back to show view, and you can see now I have the current slide text, the next slide text, and a clock here at the bottom. And I made that all in what? Less than 5 minutes, pretty fast. And already I'm showing some really useful information to those who are on stage. So now I'm going to show a little bit more of the advanced kind of things you can do, and I'm going to go through this a little bit more quickly. But if you have any other questions or anything like that, please, at the end, we'll give you more information to talk to our support team, and we'll share more resources for you to dive into this later. But let's go back to our stage editor. So let's say I want to be a little bit more advanced, and my worship leader really wants to know not just what is next in the lyrics, but is this next thing a chorus or a verse, or is it another bridge? Like, what's coming up next? What I've done here is, as you can see, I still have that current slide text, next slide text, but what I've added is this thing at the top that is labeled current slide text group. So if I come down here, I've got the group option selected as my linked text, and you can see this is linked text, it's checked, group, and then from group, I can choose the current slide. So this is showing with the slide that is currently triggered to the output, what group are they a part of in your arrangement? Again, things like chorus or verse or bridge. And then down here, I have the same thing, but set for the next slide. So how would this work? Let's go ahead and come back to our song. And now I'm going to show you how to quickly, just from the stage controls that we saw earlier, how to switch between stage layouts in real time. So if I click on this, I'll see all of my available stage layouts. They're all listed here. We're going to get to some of these other ones down here in just a moment, but I showed that one with groups, so I'm going to select this one with groups. So now on my stage layout, and I'll go ahead and use a windowed output to just make this bigger for you guys, you can see that not only is it showing the current and next slide text, but it's also showing the group that that is a part of. So I've got verse 1, verse 2. Let me make this a little smaller. And as you see, as I go through, the song, you will see, this is real-time webinar. You can just see it in the preview over here in the right. So I go through the song, you'll see as I get to that chorus, that next slide chorus shows as next. And then I go through the chorus. Now chorus is about to end. We're going to go back to verse 1. The worship leader kind of gets a heads up to see that. Get to the end of the verse 1. I'm going to go straight into a bridge. Again, you can see all of that, all just using stage screens. And again, none of this is shown to your audience. The audience doesn't know necessarily what's coming up next. This is just for those people on stage or behind the scenes. Now let's go ahead and go to a different kind of person that we need to talk about. Let's talk about our speaker or our pastor or whoever is just delivering a message on stage. They have different needs than your worship leader. They don't really care about lyrics or groups and arrangements. They kind of care about the content on the screen, maybe what it looks like, and a timer, how much time do I have left, and maybe some other things like that. So let's build something with that person in mind. If I'm a speaker, I think I want to see what slide is currently live, and I want a timer to show how much time is left in my sermon or what have you. And I also want to see a preview of what my next slide is. So let's go ahead and build that. Again, we're going to build it from scratch. So I'm going to come back over here to my current slide objects, and I'm going to see current preview image. So if I add that, you'll see it adds this square in the middle. I'm just going to kind of make this pretty big and just kind of put it over here on this side. So now I've got an object, and what you see here is you see these diagonal yellow lines. What this just means is that this is going to be filled with something. And in this case, it's going to be filled with a current slide preview image. So what is an image of the current slide. We'll see what this looks like in just a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and build out this a little bit more. So I've got my current slide image. While I'm doing this, let's go ahead and add that next slide. Again, we have our next slide options here. I'm going to do that same thing and click preview image. And I'm just going to put this guy down here so that I kind of, as a pastor, I can see my big current slide, what's up there right now, next slide. The last thing I want to add is a timer. So I'm just going to go back to show view for just a moment to show you where timers are. Timers also live down here in the show controls. I've got a couple ready that I use for different purposes in my service, but I've got my speaker timer. So I've labeled it here. I've created it ahead of time. Maybe my speaker timer is going to be like 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Maybe you're one of those churches that they talk for 2 hours. All of that could be set right here. So I've got my timer already created and it's here for me. If I need to create a new timer, I just do this plus button and I can make it all right there. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. If you have questions about timers, again, we've got plenty of resources available through our support team and our knowledge base articles. So I'm going to just delete that one and come back to my stage editor. So we mentioned it before, but there's this little icon at the top for timers, and I'm going to click on this. And again, now I see those timers. I want to add my speaker timer. So I click on this, and again, I get this text box with the timer format already filtered here. Just like I did before, I'm just going to go ahead and put this where I want it to. I want this to be pretty big, so I'm going to go ahead and do text up or down, and I can see that here. Now there's some other things to mention, and I'm going to go through this pretty fast, but I don't want to see things like milliseconds or hours, so I can configure all of that here. So I don't want to see milliseconds. I don't want to see hours. I can make all these adjustments here. We'll go into some more specifics with color triggers and things like that in just a moment, but right now I'm just going to do a simple timer for me, and this should show whatever the time is on that same speaker timer that I had created before. So now I've got a pretty good set. I can see my current slide, the next slide, and my timer. So let's see what this looks like on my actual stage screen. For this, I'm going to go ahead and go to my sermon slides just so those look a little bit more normal. Go back to my stage screen controls and then choose that speaker layout that we just made. Awesome. So now you can see, and I'll make this big again. I've got my current slide here. I've got a big timer, and then I've got the next slide shown. So as I'm on stage, I'm a speaker, I go through my different slides. You'll see that as I go through these, they change, current slide, next slide. And if I start that timer, that will start counting down. So me as a speaker, I know how much time is left. Again, this is obviously a very different look than what we had for the worship pastor. That's because you have different needs for those people on stage. So if I'm a pastor, this is a great thing to show to make sure I know where I am in my sermon and things like that and how much time I have left. Now let's talk about another kind of stage layout you might have. Maybe there are times in your service where you play a video. Maybe it's before the sermon or a welcome video at the top of the service, and you want to see how much time is left in this video. Well, without asking the ProPresenter operator to go and look and tell you, there's another way you can do this just using stage screen layouts. So I've already made one here, and I'm just going to walk through what all I added to it. So here, I'm going to talk quickly about what screen previews are. So in this top section, again, we have this third option, and if I hover over it, it says Insert Screen Preview Object. And if I click on that, I can see all the different screens that I have configured. If I add one of these objects, it'll basically, within the box of that object, it'll show whatever is live to that screen in that moment. So this is great if you need to show, I'm showing a video on my audience screen, and I also want them to see it backstage on my stage screen. Screen previews are what that is honestly perfect for. So I've already made one for my main screen here. I've formatted it and put it here. Now, what is this at the bottom? I want to show how much time is remaining in that video. So I'm actually going to delete this option. I'm going to build it from scratch again, just to show you what it looks like. So again, I'm going to come to this timer, this clock option, and here you can see video countdown. This will show a countdown of how much time is remaining in that video that might be playing on your audience screen. So I'm going to add this again, and I'm just going to quickly format this in a way that I like. You can spend as much time or as little time as you want here, making it look the way you want it to. Ultimately, It's whatever looks best for the people who need to see it. So I'm thinking of people backstage. I want them to see this, but not be too distracted by it. It's a video countdown. They don't really need milliseconds and things, and we don't have any videos that are an hour long. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the hours, remove the milliseconds, and let that be here. I'm going to have it ignore looping videos for things like worship backgrounds. I'm only really going to use for videos that have a set start and end. Again, like an intro to a sermon or the welcome video at the top of my service. So I have that set here. And for me, I just like things to be color coded differently. So I put my videos in blue. Again, you can do whatever you want to here. It's all up to you. And then as far as this time remaining, that's just a text box that I added previously. So how does this work for the actual stage screen? So here I'm going to go ahead and switch my stage layout to that video countdown that I created. And here you can see it's showing what's on my main audience output, which is still that sermon slide I had previously. And time remaining is just 0 right now because there's no video playing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to, I have this welcome video that I got from ProContent that's at the top of my service. And I'm going to go ahead and play this and just see what happens on that screen, that stage screen. So I click on this. And you can see that this video is 1 minute, 10 seconds long. As soon as it starts going, it starts to count down that video. And so that now me backstage, who maybe I'm the person who's making the announcements that morning, and I'm supposed to go on stage after that video is done, I can get a preview of how long do I have left until I need to walk on stage just from that stage screen. And again, this will count down with the whole video, and you'll be able to do that and go on stage when you're supposed to. So that's another great quick tool. I always like to have this kind of a stage layout in my back pocket if I need to hop to this, especially so you don't have those people on stage just looking over at the side for their side screens. They can have it right there on a confidence monitor and show it in real time. Now let's move on to some more technical, some more advanced stage screens. We're going to be talking about maybe a producer screen and then also that multi-view that I hinted at earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this video just so it doesn't play as we continue to talk and come back to my stage editor. And again, all of these can be made from scratch. I've made some stuff in advance for this webinar just so we don't spend so much time watching me format things, but all of this can be done within the editor, and I'm going to try my best to show you how I put it together. But again, if you have any questions, let us know about it and we'll try to get those things answered. So I've made this producer screen. Now, before I go through every item on here, a lot of your churches may not have someone who is a producer, and that's totally fine. You may not need a screen like this, but for some other churches, maybe you do. Maybe you have someone who just kind of sits there and kind of needs to know what is the big picture right now. What are we doing right now? What are we about to do? Maybe they're in charge of making sure that the live stream is up and running, and maybe they're just making sure we're on time. Think of this person, maybe they're using Planning Center and they're using Planning Center Live and doing that kind of stuff, kind of the overarching, how is this service going and are we on time? That kind of a person. So I've made this stage screen kind of with that person in mind. So I'm going to go through kind of some of the things I've added and talk about how I added it as well. So first, I wanted them to just be able to know what's on screen right now. So I added this main screen window and a little label next to it. And I did this doing the screen previews again that we mentioned earlier. And then I also made a live stream version. So for our church in this example, we have our main screen that's going to the audience in room. And then we also have a live stream that has cameras and lower thirds and things like that as well. If you want to know how to do that and show different content in different places, you would use a tool called Looks or Audience Looks. This is a super powerful feature that I don't have enough time to go into today, but please, if you want more information on that, check out our knowledge base and ask any questions, and maybe we'll do another webinar about looks. If that's something you're interested in, also let us know. But for my purposes, I just need to know how to do the screen previews for here right now. The other thing I've added, and I think this is pretty cool, maybe you don't have a Planning Center or another like run of show or a service, but I just want to know what's the next thing in our playlist. Like, we're on this song, what's the next song? Is this the last song, or are we going to the sermon next? That kind of a question. So we have this, I've added this kind of section down here. And if I go to my options, I can show linked text. So I just checked this off, and then I chose playlist. So whatever playlist I'm in, maybe for that Sunday. Once I selected this, I can choose the current item. So what does that mean? It means that this section of text right here is going to put in the name of whatever the current item of the playlist we are in. So if we are in Amazing Grace, it'll show Amazing Grace here. And similarly, there's also an option for the next item in the playlist. So we're in Amazing Grace right now. What's the next song? It would show that title there. We'll show what that looks like in just a moment on the stage screen itself. And then a couple other things I've added here. So also, like I mentioned, maybe I'm in charge of the stream and I just want to make sure that we're streaming and it's live and that that's going. I can add this capture status option. Again, linked text capture. You can also add this from the top, capture status. And what this does is it will put the current status of your capture or stream in both text, and the color behind it will also be green or red or yellow, depending on the status of the capture. And then lastly, and I think this one is really cool, and I don't have a whole lot of time to go into the details of it, but also if you're a church that uses Planning Center and Planning Center Live, you can add a Planning Center Live data link in your stage screen. So what this does is if you're going through your service in Planning Center, and I'll go ahead and bring that up here, my Planning Center Live, I've got this service that I've started that I'm going to go ahead and start back over, go back to my beginning. Great. I've got my webinar and then I've started my service. And so I've got a countdown clock going here for this section of pre-show or whatever section it is. And maybe this is being controlled here within ProPresenter using this widget, or someone else on a different computer is going through Planning Center Live. But basically I want this clock. I don't really want to use the clock within ProPresenter or the timer within ProPresenter. I want that to be coming from Planning Center. So how you can add that is you just add this Planning Center Live object, which is what I've done down here, and kind of formatted it and made it the way I want it to. I can choose if it's light mode or dark mode, and then what timer format do I want to see? Do I want to just see the time for this item in that playlist or the whole service as a whole? Again, I'm speed running through these, but trying to get as much information to you guys as I can in the moment. So now that we've got all that configured, let's go back and just see what this looks like on an actual stage screen. I'm going to start a stream so that we can see what it looks like with an active stream on that stage screen that we created so that this capture status will be filled in. But otherwise, let's see what all is going on. So again, I'm in How Great Is Our God, and let's see, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see everything going on this stage screen. So as you can see, I've got my main screen here. I've got my live stream, which is showing that same lyrics, but it's a lower third. I've got my current playlist item, How Great Is Our God, and then next, Amazing Grace, all shown on here. And then, like I said, I've got that Planning Center timer also going. I can kind of see what this looks like from my Planning Center Live section here. I'm in this section of types of stage screens in our current run of show, and I can see that that timer is matching up with what is also showing on my stage screen. So as I go to the next section of my Planning Center service, this will also update on that stage screen live. Super cool for those Planning Center users. This is a great tool if you want a whole lot of information on a stage screen that's super powerful. And so if I'm maybe backstage or in a booth of some sort, I have a really great view of the whole service and all the important things I need to know. So let's now move on to, we're going to get even more advanced and talk about that multi-view screen that I mentioned before. Maybe some of y'all have seen this in some different tutorials, or maybe from some screenshots from other people, but basically some people want to see, I want to see what's on my main screen, my live stream, and my stage screen all at one time. So there's a way I can do this. I'm going to go through this pretty fast, but we do have some tutorials and things on this if you want to watch it in more detail. But I'm actually going to come back to my stage configuration. So my screen configuration, excuse me. So here I made this multi-view. Now you can see it looks kind of weird. It's a weird resolution. What I've done is I want to see basically three 1920 by 1080 outputs all stacked on top of one another. So that ended up looking like 1920 by 3240 because I want to see my main screen, my live stream, and my stage screen all at the same time. So now I'm going to come and I made that multi-view screen, and I'm going to come over here and show what this looks like in the stage editor. So here in the stage editor, I set that size to be the same as my multi-view. And what I did here is I added some screen preview. So I've got a screen preview of my main screen. You can see that here, one of my live stream screen, and then one of my stage screen. So what does this look like, and why might I want to use it? Well, maybe I'm here as my ProPresenter operator. What I can do is here in the preview, change that to multi-view, and I'm going to just make this a little bit bigger so that we can see kind of everything going on here. But now, just as my ProPresenter operator, as I go through things, I can see what is on all the outputs I'm sending. And I'll make this a little bit bigger and a windowed output just so you can kind of see that as well. So I've got my main screen shown there, my live stream, I can view that right there as well as whatever is on my stage screen at the moment, which for the moment is still that producer screen that I had earlier. So I know I went through that so fast, but that's another really cool tool, and you can do all this using stage screens. So now we've kind of gone through all of that. I'm going to go and switch all this back to kind of normal and just talk about a little bit more of our simpler setup. I'm going to switch my stage screen back to that worship look that we had. Now I want to talk about, okay, great. You made all these stage layouts, Amanda, but like, how do I switch between all these in the service? It seems kind of tedious to go and do it from stage controls. I've got a volunteer and they're not going to know how to do that. I 100% understand that. And so that's where actions and macros come in. So this is how we will be able to switch between these stage layouts automatically, and if in theory your volunteer doesn't even know that they're doing it. So I'm going to go through a couple different ways you can do this, how exactly this works for your church or your event might differ slightly. So I'm just showing you one possible way to do this today, but take this for what it is. You might have different names for things, different macros, different ways that you trigger things. But here's one way that I think is super powerful and can be applied to a lot of different kinds of events. So I'm going to come over here to macros. And now macros, what is a macro? Very briefly, it can trigger multiple actions all at once. So if I want to do a timer and I want to change my audience look and I want to start the stream all at the same time, I can do that using a macro. So I have some different macros set up for some different use cases. And just to make sure that I'm not streaming to YouTube on accident right now, I'm going to stop that stream at the same time. Come back over here to macros. So I've got a worship macro, I've got a sermon, a video look, pre-service, and some other things going on. So what I want is I want to create a worship macro that anytime I trigger this, it's going to change my stage layout to that one we created earlier. So how do I do this? I'm going to right click on that and go to add action, stage. What this is going to do is going to do a pop-up and say, okay, cool. When this is triggered, what do you want to happen on these different stage screens? My multi-view one, I don't want to change. It's always going to be on that multi-view that we chose, but my stage screen, I'm going to have it go to worship and simple, the one that we made earlier. That's just this current text, next text, and a clock. So now that stage action is there. You can see it there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my first song of our worship set for this Sunday and drag that macro onto our first slide of the first song. So now just to show how this can work, I'm going to go ahead and change my stage screen to, I don't know, let's say this video countdown that we had earlier, because we were showing our welcome video. Maybe the welcome video ends, the band is about to start. And so now I'm going to click on this first slide of the first song and just watch what happens to this stage screen. So I click on it, boom, my stage screen automatically changed to show current next text. And now I can go through this song and everything is great. And I did it all with one click. If I'm a volunteer who I'm just worried about next slide and clicking next, they can do that and have no idea the power of what they're doing. And that's awesome. There's a lot of automated things that you can set up ahead of time. And now every week, not just this Sunday, I have this macro that I can just click and drag onto whatever the first song is and make sure that I'm ready for that stage screen to change. Similarly, we're going to talk about the sermon. So for the sermon on here, I want to make sure that my look is in sermon look, and I want to have a timer on here to start that speaker timer. I've already added those things. So now I'm going to go ahead and add a stage action like we just did before. And now I want the stage screen to go to that that simple speaker look that we built earlier. So now I'm going to come down here to the first slide of my sermon, and I'm going to add that sermon macro to it. Now, when I come to trigger that slide, you will see that the stage screen also changed, started the timer, changed my audience look, all in one click. Super simple to do. And now it's ready for the speaker to come up there and have their slides. So macros are a really powerful way to use this. Some other things that I'm going to really briefly touch on for my ProPresenter remote fans who have it on their phone, their Android, or their iPhone. You can also change stage screens and stage layouts from there. We also have this cool tool called ProPresenter Control. It basically opens it up some different things in a web interface. And here you can also change what your stage screens are, all from here as well. So that's an awesome tool. You'll also be able to send stage messages from here, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. But let's go ahead and come back to our ProPresenter and talk about some of those Q&A questions that y'all submitted. I know there's a lot I haven't gotten to yet, but let's see what some of those questions are so we can talk about that. So our first one is from Josh Geary. Apologies if I mispronounced that. How to send a message on the stage screen during service when needed. Now, a lot of y'all answered a very similar question about how to send a message to someone on stage. So let's talk about how to do that. We're going to be using a feature called stage messages. So let's come back to the stage editor now. I already took our simple speaker layout from before, and I've basically made one that also has this new object at the bottom called stage message. Now I can add this by coming to the dots at the end and clicking stage message. I just made this big box down here at the bottom. Again, I changed the color and I made it scale to how I want it to. And one other thing I'm going to note right here is you have this nifty little option that has a checkbox here down at the bottom right that says flash when message is shown. So why would I want this to happen? Well, let's say your pastor has already gone over his time by 30 minutes and he needs to get off that stage because everyone is hungry, right? We've all been there. Now, if I do this stage message, and we'll show what this looks like in just a moment, when this stage message is shown, it'll basically like flash to make sure that the person intended for it actually sees it. It doesn't just pop up and they kind of don't notice it. They really see it. So I'm going to keep this here. We're going to see what this looks like in real time. So I'm going to come and view my stage screen again, and then make this a little bit bigger so we all see it. Come over in my stage screens and change it to this one with the stage message. So now if I come over in this stage section, you see stage message here at the bottom. I've already typed this up. I said, hey, pastor, please wrap this up. We need to go home. So I put my message in here and I'm just going to click show. And when I do that, just watch what happens in the preview. Awesome. You see that? It flashes at him. He can't ignore that. Please wrap this up. We want to go home. If I'm ready for that stage message to go away, I just click hide and it's gone. If I want to say, I'm hungry and ready for lunch, maybe I have a really fun relationship with my pastor. So I say, I'm hungry and ready for lunch. Oh, and ready for lunch. And then I click show. And now he definitely knows that I'm starting to get hangry and he should wrap his sermon up. So that's how you can quickly send stage messages. Again, how they look and how they're formatted. You can do all of this in the stage editor, change the color, make it a different size, all caps, all of that stuff is there for you. So stage messages are a really powerful tool to use to send messages to those on stage or behind the scenes without the audience ever knowing that it happened. So thank you for that question. Again, a super powerful feature. So let's go to our next question. What are some ways to use the stage screen to benefit the pastor or speaker the most? And this was from Camera Butler. A lot of this is going to kind of depend on what your pastor or speaker wants or does not want to see. There's definitely times where you can put too much information on there and they may not want all of that. Maybe they only want to see what is the slide on screen right now. All their other notes are, I don't know, written on their podium or something like that. But a lot of times speakers might have some notes and some cues and some little things like that that they want to show on their slides. So I want to talk really briefly about slide notes. So coming back to ProPresenter, I have my sermon that we saw earlier, this anchored one that my pastor gave me some little notes that he wants on each slide. So I put these in ahead of time down here in the slide notes section of my presentation. And again, if you don't see this, you just click on slide notes down here in the bottom right and it hides whether or not that is shown. So first I need a reminder of what he needs to talk about at the beginning, some things for this story that he's going to tell to help remind him, some other notes about how to tie the verse into whatever his next point is. All of that I have it ahead of time. I've put it in here. He wanted some things colored certain ways, some things underlined, some things bolded. All of that is basically like he wants to be able to get some cues about what he's going to talk about next and just see that on his confidence monitor or his stage screen. So I've already put all those things in. So let's see how we need to make a stage screen layout in order to show those things. So I'm going to come back to the stage editor. And again, I've kind of already put one in here ahead of time. But if I come to current text, and then when I do that, I can choose, instead of just the text, like what's on the slide, I can choose notes. And that'll put the slide notes for whatever that slide is in that section. You can also get the next slide notes if you want to do that. But for this purpose, I'm just going to keep it to his current slide notes. And what I did, because I want to make sure that all the colored and the bold and the underline that he asked for is also shown in those notes, I checked this preserve notes format option. So briefly, what does that look like in real time? So I'm going to switch to that stage layout and look at my stage screen. And then I'm just going to make this pretty big for me right now, just so we can all see it, and hide that hungry for lunch option. And now you can see that on his screen, he's got his current slide, the timer that we've had going, the next slide, but now also he has his slide notes for what he needs to talk about on those different slides. So if I trigger this next slide, you can see that that also updated. So he's got all his points to remember. If he's going to tell this story, he doesn't leave anything out. If I go to this verse slide, you can see all that with the underline, and the color is also all put there. So if you're a pastor or if you're at a church or a production that whoever is speaking on stage really wants some different notes and some cues for their slides also shown on that confidence monitor, slide notes is how you would do that. It's a super powerful tool again, and that was a great question. But again, just something to keep in mind. Obviously, I've got a lot on this stage layout. Maybe my pastor really does want all this information, but we also don't want to distract them or give so much information that the really important stuff they don't see. So definitely talk with your pastor, your speaker, your worship leaders, whoever are on stage, and kind of ask them and like, see, what all do you want to be shown on this screen? Like, is this too much, too little? Do you want more? Is the text big enough? As you know, in production and working on this side of ministry and different things like that for events, it's definitely a collaboration. So talk with your whoever's on stage and make sure that you're giving them the most beneficial information using these stage screens. Let's go to our next question. What is the best way to display chords along with lyrics for the band to reference? And again, Evan submitted this one, as well as a lot of different people asking about chords. Now, there's a couple things we're going to talk about here. And again, I'm going to go through this pretty fast. But first, let's talk about multitracks. Now, we have a partnership with Multitracks. And so if you have their subscription service, they have different tiers that also include chords. So let me come back to my first song, which is from Multitracks, How Great Is Our God. And I'm going to go ahead and trigger this first slide. And what I have done and what you can do, because this is a template available to you, is there is a Multitracks chords and lyrics stage layout already available for you. And this has it all set up, but let's quickly look at it, I've added it here towards the bottom. But what this will do will show the current slide text as well as the chords and put in the place where they would need to be played. Super great. And I have control here in the bottom right over are they chords, numbers, numerals, however your church needs to be seeing those chords. I've kept this just as chords and making sure that that all works. So I have that for the current slide and the next slide. Again, all of this you can edit, tweak to make it work for you. But let me just show you how this works in practice. So I will go ahead and make that live. And again, look at my stage screen. And what I can see here is I've got the different chords already shown on there where I need to play them for the song. So as I go through it, I see that. And so if I'm the guitar player or what have you, I know kind of what's coming up and I'm able to play it with the band. And again, I didn't have to put any of these chords in here. This just came with my multi-track stuff. Super helpful. Also helpful because I can change the key of the song and they will also update. So like, let's say instead of G, I'm going to play this in D. And now all of the different chords have also updated automatically. Super great tool. We love our friends at Multitracks. So definitely a beneficial part of having those songs come in that way. But let's say, okay, cool. That's great, Amanda, but I don't have Multitracks. What are some other ways I can accomplish this? I'm going to go through 2 ways really quick, and we'll talk about how to use those. So first, I'm going to talk about, basically I have like a PDF or a printout of the chords and the lyrics and everything. Can I just take that and just put that on my stage screen? Yes, you can. So let's talk about how to do that really quick. Going to come to this editor. So first, on the first slide of this song, I come over here, I go to the slide, and you'll see this chord chart option. So here I'm going to click choose, and it'll open up my Finder, and I've already got this PDF of the chords already ready to go. So I added this chord chart here in the editor for the song on the first slide, but how do I get that to show on the stage screen? So I go over to the stage editor, and there's this object that I can add called chord chart. So I did that. I put it here. I made it fill this space. I also still want the current slide, next slide text really big. So I've got this all configured. Now I'm going to come and make this live and then trigger the first slide. And you can see now that the chord chart PDF, as I had it, is showing in that space, and it will stay up there as long as I need it to, and I can keep going through the song. So if I just need that reference up there, I'm able to see it. So this is another quick and easy way to just put some chords up there to make sure that they're visible. The last way I'm going to tell you about, it's not perfect. It's definitely maybe a little bit hacky, a little bit more legwork to do, but you can also utilize slide notes to put chords on the screens as well. So in here, I'm going to just open this back up. And as you can see down here in slide notes, I just added what chords are for that lyric, just typed in there. It's not perfect, but it might be all I need is just a little bit of a cue. I'm going to come back to the stage editor, and I made this new stage layout that has my current slide notes just up here above my current slide text. And then same thing with next slide notes and next slide text. So again, slide notes, as we used it for the pastor, I'm just kind of utilizing that same tool for a different purpose. So what does this then look like on my stage screen? Well, I'm going to go ahead and come here and then change that. And now you can see as I go through this, I have those chords shown above the text. And then I see the next one and the next one. Now, this doesn't do the same as multi-tracks where it puts it in the exact right spot. But if you just need kind of a reference point, this is another great tool. Another downside here is if I sing this in G this Sunday, but then in another key the next Sunday, I will have to go and update all of those slide notes. So again, there's some ways that you can do that here. Multi-tracks is probably the easiest, but there's other options if you don't have that service. Thanks for the question. So this last question was another great one. If we use bilingual song slides, English and Spanish for their case, in worship, can we show only English on the stage display? A lot of people now, especially now, are doing a lot more bilingual services. And so this is actually a really important one to maybe touch on. So I actually will come here and I have, this week we're doing a special service, let's say, and I want to do Amazing Grace. And I have both the English and Spanish lyrics here because we want everyone to sing it in unison together. So I've already prepared these slides. And what I've done, and this is very important, is I'm going to come to the editor And how I formatted these slides is I have the English lyrics titled English as the object and the Spanish ones titled Spanish. You can do this on a theme and then apply it to everything, but it's really important that you make sure that the text box itself is called something specific. For ease of use for me, I made sure it was called English and Spanish is called Spanish. And that's true on all these slides, so that this will help me for this next part. So now I'm going to come over to my stage editor and come down here. And so I have, and actually I'm going to make this from scratch because I think it's important. So I'm going to come here just like we did previously to get the current slide text. I'll make this all big and scaled again and text up or down and make it this way. So now instead of just keeping it set to just text where it will show everything in the text on that slide, I'm going to set this to match element name. Now, what does that mean? It means what it's looking for is, okay, on that slide, I'm looking for whatever element on that slide has this name. So now you're seeing why we called it English, right? So I'm going to title this English. And so now it'll display anything in this text box on the slide if that slide has an object that is titled English. And I'll do the same thing here. And I'm just going to make this copy paste. And instead of current slide, next slide, and just change the color real briefly. So now this should show my current slide, English text box, and the next slide, English text box. So let's see what this looks like as I trigger things. So I'm going to trigger that again and then change to, I called it multilingual lyrics, and let's go to that stage screen. So great. Now you can see that it's only showing the English lyrics on each of these slides instead of seeing both. Because if you, just for comparison, if I go to that worship one that we made earlier, it shows all the text. And if I'm just trying to sing the song on stage, this is really confusing. I don't maybe know which one to sing. But if I use that one that we just created with multilingual lyrics, I just see the English, and maybe that's all I need to see on that stage. Great question. I know multilingual is something super important and becoming more and more common. So this is a great way to still utilize lyrics on your stage screen, but only really showing the worship band the one that maybe they need to see in that moment. And that's stage screens. Thank you all for coming along and joining me on this. I know I've talked about so much in a short amount of time, and there's even more things that I didn't really have time to get to. Stage screens, as you've seen, are a super powerful tool, and hopefully you've learned something or picked up something you want to try for your use case. And definitely tell us about it. Let us know, was this useful? How are you going to use this for your church or your event in the future? Are you going to try something new that you haven't tried before? We love to hear your stories and hear more about how this might be helpful. And if we didn't touch on something today or you still have some questions, definitely check out our different resources. We've got video tutorials available on YouTube on the Renewed Vision channel, and those are great, and we've got more and more of those coming out every month. We've also got support articles in our knowledge base available on our website over all sorts of different features and tools within ProPresenter. And then if you still have questions or you need help troubleshooting something, please contact our support team. They would love to help you out and make sure that you can use ProPresenter to its fullest and that they can answer any questions you might have. But as far as today, that's all we've got for this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us and learning more about stage screens. We hope that you've enjoyed it. Please let us know if there's things that you'd like to learn more about, if there's a different format for this kind of webinar that you would like, or if you just have any questions in general. Our team would love to hear more from you. And if you liked this webinar and would like to watch it again, or if you want to share it with someone on your team, we'll have a recording available soon, so you'll be hearing from us about that. But thank you again for your time, and we hope that you've enjoyed this. Again, I'm Amanda from ProPresenter, and thank you for learning more about stage screens. See you next time.